কি সবাই অফ হয়ে গেল?
ক্যামেরা কি অফ করে দেবো?
We can see you, Atreyi. হ্যাঁ।
Good morning, everyone. We welcome you all to the second day of the webinar session, Let's Talk Linguistics, organized by Department of Linguistics, University of Calcutta. Department of Linguistics has a great legacy continuing more than a century, and many eminent personalities have been a part of this department, such as Professor Mohammad Shahidullah, Horinath De, Shuniti Kumar Chatterjee, Shukumar Sen, and many more. Today, we have all gathered here in this social platform to talk about linguistics as a subject, as a career, and as an experience as a whole. This is a 3 days interactive web session. Different speakers from different careers concerning linguistics will be present here. We will discuss the wide variety of scopes that linguistics has to offer. Before we move on to the speakers, I would like to address our audience who is watching us on our YouTube channel. You all are requested to write down your comments and questions in the comment section in YouTube. We will then put your questions in front of our speakers to answer. Today's topic is conducting linguistics fieldwork. We are honored to have our students as our speakers today. First, we have Rajeshwari Dutta, research scholar, CU, guest faculty, Department of Linguistics, Sanskrit College and University. Next, we have Atreyi Gupta, research scholar, CU, project linked person, LRU ISI. Last, we have Sayantani Pathak Banerjee, research scholar, Department of Linguistics, University of Calcutta. Both Rajeshwari and Sayantani are working on endangered languages spoken in India, having extensive experience in linguistics fieldwork in remote areas of India. And Atreyi is working in the area of social linguistics fieldwork that involves the study of the core languages used by pickpocketers and burglars in West Bengal. Welcome you all. Now I would like to request Anindita to go on with the interview. Thank you.
Good morning, all of you. So we'll begin with some general questions. Okay, so to start with, I'd like to know why, rather we all would like to know, why did you choose linguistics as a subject in the first place? Would you like to start?
Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm having a blood donation program nearby my house, so there would be some noise. I would try to be clear as much as possible. Very good morning to you all. And I would like to thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity to be a part of this interactive session and share the space with my fellow speakers and friends. So thank you all. And addressing your question, I would say that the first time my choosing linguistics was not planned. Was It's not that I knew about linguistics as a subject or as being taught as a degree course. I remember the first time I came to know about linguistics was when I started to fill my application form, and I saw in our university admission brochure besides English, there was this option of linguistics, and that was the time I came to know about it, and I applied for the subject. Uh, Before that, I had no awareness as such, no idea about the subject, what it is actually. But then, after taking admission in the university and attending the initial classes, slowly I would say, I started developing a liking gradually in the beginning classes that I attended. Uh, I remember a few of my classmates, even after attending classes for 3 months, they shifted back to English or Bangla later. But so in that case, it was my decision not to change. So that was the kind of choice that I made after taking admission in linguistics. I will stick to the subject and pursue linguistics and in the coming years. So I would say that was my first face to face with linguistics as such. It was that.
Atreyi, would you like to talk about your experiences?
Yeah, sorry.
Would you like to talk about your experiences?
And thank you to the Department of Linguistics and for giving me this opportunity, to share these experiences with my fellow speakers and again with the students, our juniors. Just like Rajeshwari said, having a very little knowledge, actually I got myself admitted to the linguistics course. I do come from English honors background. So there's a very little part that we get to know about, not so in the name of linguistics, but we get to learn about the philology part, right? The history of English language, what formation process and all. But we were not sure about the actual subject is the linguistics, which actually deals with these things. So having very little knowledge of this, I got myself admitted in the department. And initially, I was a little skeptical. Even my family, my parents, they were very, in doubt, like whether I really should pursue this course or not. But I chose myself. I chose to give 1 week to myself, and after having 1 week class, I realized I think this is a subject that I might take interest in future. And in a way, it was like a conscious decision for me at that point of time to stick to the subject. And I'm glad that that was a decision by taking my knee, and I'm really loving the subject right now. And the day that I'm still in academics, I'm working and I'm doing research. It's because maybe because of the subject that I'm passionate about. So that was like journey for me to be in linguistics.
So, Atreyi, would you like to share your story?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. And thank you for letting me be a part of this. So yeah, I'll just, without any further ado, I'll just say that I'm also from English literature background. And yes, I was not aware of linguistics. All I vaguely recall is that one of my seniors was pursuing linguistics, and I did not have much knowledge about it. Just like Rajeshwari mentioned, I got to know a little bit about it from the brochure, which was almost nothing. And I was undecided about linguistics even till the end of my first semester. And then eventually, as days went, I started liking the subject. And then I went into other things, linguistics related. I went for further studies in linguistics because I started developing an interest for the subject. And yes, here I am. I mean, since I like the subject, I'm still pursuing it. So yeah, here I am.
Okay, so since you mentioned you have changed your subject while coming into masters, so then I would like to know, and I suppose all our audience would like to know your journey throughout your masters till you reached your present stage, which is your PhD. Rajeshwari, would you like to start?
If I have to recall my journey from being a master's student and then getting into PhD, I have been a part of a few projects that I would like to mention. Uh, I remember when we were in second year social linguistics class, Aditi madam gave us a project. The whole class was given a project. She was doing social linguistic project that was about language use and attitude of non-Bengalis in Kolkata. So we were given a project. We were divided into groups, and we had some grades on basis of that. And our task was to collect data from non-Bengali speakers about their language use in different domains in their daily lives and their attitude towards the languages, the other like English, Bengali, Hindi, or any other languages, being a multilingual place that Kolkata is, their attitude to other languages and also their use. So that was the first project I remember. I joined with Momo and Polomi, friends of mine, and from that project, class project, we continued later, and we did that work for around 2 years, I would say, and we collected maybe somewhere we interviewed were around 400 people, 400 non-Bengali speakers, uh, consisting of students, teachers, professionals, housewives, and every other area sectors. So that was the first project that I was part of, and then after that I was part of a language documentation project. It was named SPPEL, Scheme for Protection and Preservation of Endangered Languages. It was initiated by Ministry of Education, Government of India, and it was monitored by CIIL, Central Institute of Indian Languages. So they collaborated with other institutes, universities, organizations for this task. And the aim was to document and archive the endangered languages of India or languages that are likely to be endangered. So preparing of grammar, preparing of dictionaries, ethno-linguistic profiles, collecting cultural data. So that was the main aim. And they began with around 117 languages. So I was part of that project from since 2013, and that was the time when I got admission into PhD, and I simultaneously started my PhD program. So I joined another resource person for this project, Pranavizda, and we were supervised by our principal investigator, Professor Meena Dan. And our task was to visit the field for the collection of data. We were given a structured questionnaire, like word list and sentence list, and even certain topics for like conversations or other for collecting of other audio visual data. And we had a number of experiences, field experiences for and later transcribing of data, analyzing of the data, and then we were part of preparing a trilingual dictionary using Flex, Fieldworks Language Explorer software, preparing a trilingual dictionary in Bengali, Hindi, and Tharu. It was the Tharu community. And then report writing, preparing a grammatical sketch and other audiovisual data in a certain format that we were given. So we completed that, and we worked for around 3 years in that project, and then we submitted. So this was my remaining years, what I did from master's to PhD, if you ask me.
Okay, thank you, Rajeshwari, and Shantini, would you like to talk
Yes,
about
soon after the completion of my master's in linguistics, I got an opportunity to work as a linguist in Indian Statistical Institute, Kolkata. And that was also a project called ILCI, Indian Languages Corporate Initiative. I worked in the phase 2. And that project was funded by the Department of Information Technology, Government of India. The project was supervised by Dr. Rajeshwari Dutta. The job role was like to generate a monolingual corpus, then translating text from Hindi to Bangla. There are many other works were going on in the other scheduled languages as well. In Kolkata, in ISI Kolkata, we were working in terms of Bangla language. We are translating text from from Hindi to Bangla, two specific domain, to be very particular, and they were like tourism and entertainment, as far as my memory is concerned. So, and then we, after translation, we were to tag and annotate the text as well. So this is something that we had to do during that project. And after that project, I got an opportunity to teach in a college in Shiliguri, and I taught there for 4 semesters. There I had to teach, English grammar, and that's a law college basically. So there I had to train the law students in terms of grammar, in terms of basis of English language, and a little bit of literature as well. So that was really an experience for me. And by that time, I got myself enrolled to the PhD program as well. And now I'm a full-time scholar pursuing my PhD program.
Okay. Atreyi, would you like to share your story?
Yeah. So I joined after finishing my masters. I immediately joined the MPhil program at University of Hyderabad in 2012 at the department at Center of Applied Linguistics and Translation Studies, that is CALS. And I pursued my MPhil there, and it was a study of Bangla English code switching in contemporary Bengali films. And I completed and submitted it in 2014. And then immediately I applied for PhD at Calcutta University, Department of Linguistics, and then I got into the program here, PhD program here in 2014. While I was pursuing my PhD, I also did a diploma course in English language teaching from Institute of English, Kolkata. It was a 4-month course. And then simultaneously I taught for them. On the behalf of Institute of English, I taught communicative English in different colleges and at the institute as well. And then currently I'm pursuing my PhD. I'm currently pursuing my fieldwork in relation to my PhD, and simultaneously also working in a project at the Linguistic Research Unit at ISI. The project is pause tagged. It's called pause tagged Bangla text corpus generation. That project started I joined there in 2018, and the project is going to be over in 2021 March. I'm working as a project lead person there. And that's about it. That's my journey from
Okay,
masters.
there is one thing which is common amongst all three of you, which is you have shifted from literature to linguistics. So this is also something again very common which a lot of students are doing. Not only literature, from a lot of subjects people are shifting to linguistics. So what do you think is how would you like to differentiate the method of study, the scope of study that we are shifted into? If you take literature into consideration, how would you say linguistics is different, or how did it take a different turn? Can you talk about it? Can we start with Sayantani?
Yeah, sure. I mean, for me, as I told you, like in the very, in my initial days, I could figure out, luckily, that linguistics could be my cup of tea. So in that case, I did not have to, have to face any difficulties in learning a new subject altogether. That too in my master's level. And yes, definitely there is a different approach in these two different subjects. One, you are studying literature, and the other one is linguistics. Linguistics is much more technical. Of course, as it is said, it's like scientific study. You are studying a language or languages. You are knowing about the languages and several other things. One thing I think, more than the subject itself, which was literally a little bothersome, was like the misconceptions about the subject rather. So even though we know that we what we are doing, but it's really hard to let others know that what the subject is really about. So I think that this is something that every linguistic student has to face. these days, and you know, you can hardly handle the situation, and the situation which is under your control is to know the subject, know about the subject. So when the time comes, you can let other people know about the work that you are doing. So it's better knowing the subject by yourself without giving any thought like what others are thinking of your subject, or getting bothered about if the other people know about your subject or not. So it's better to love what you do, better to pursue what you are doing, being focused. I mean, it's really important to be focused what you're doing, and that will definitely pay you back. So that what I can say in this regard.
Rajeshwari, would you like to add
Yes.
to this?
The first difference that I faced was, if you say, is that when studying English literature, we get to look at the language in a certain way. In a certain way, I mean to say, uh, literature, the different texts that we are given in our syllabus to study, the poetries and novels and everything, written texts. In linguistics, when we start our initial classes, the first thing that comes is about the spoken language. So we are given so many sounds, and we begin with phonetics and everything. So that was one difference that definitely I would say the spoken form of language, linguistics studies, and the approaches are different. As Shantani said, the approaches, the two language, we study English language in a certain way. Linguistics, we look at language in a systematic way. Like we are speaking so many things, and there are so many factors behind speech. And that idea of constantly breaking and segmenting of words, parts of words, sentences, and then trying to find a pattern in a given language, the similarities or dissimilarities, and see if they fit in certain structure or if they don't fit in certain structure, if there are certain restrictions, constraints. So that is how we get to introduce in linguistics, and we start studying that subject. But English is totally different. It's totally different. Even uh, the grammar we study in school, and when we come in linguistics, the idea of that whole thing is totally different. So these are the major differences, I would say.
Atreyi, we'd like to hear from you as well.
Yeah, so I would just like to say, I mean, both what Shantani said, that it is very technical. What we learned in while we were pursuing our English literature degree, is that it is very different in the sense that linguistics is technical, whereas English literature not so much. And we would learn the history of one particular language, and then the kind of literature that was written in that particular language. But when we came to linguistics, we got to know about these certain phenomena that is happening across languages, right? So it was a broader point of view, as opposed to a narrower one that we were looking into in linguistics. I mean, in English literature. So that is what I think a lot of people have this misconception, because we all face this question. If you're studying linguistics, people ask you, how many languages do you know? I think everyone has faced this at some point.
Yes.
So it is not how many languages you know, but you are knowing more about different languages and certain things that are maybe common or uncommon about a particular language, and maybe the history of it, spoken, written, uh, any way of communicating. So it comes to that, it is a broader thing. So yeah, that is what was different from literature and linguistics.
I mean, in relation to what Atreyi just said, I would like to,
Yes,
add
yes,
something
please
to
go.
that. Yeah, I think what is, what I find really fascinating about linguistics is that, uh, it teaches you not to be judgmental towards the languages. Like each and every language shares the same status, and
Yeah.
that is something, it's really fascinating to me. And you know as she mentioned, Atreyi mentioned, it's such a diverse and a broad area, right? You can take up any area of your choice in relation to linguistics, right? So, and
Right.
language is so central to us, to the human being. We can relate language to almost everything. So, this is something, linguistics might give you a way to work out.
I think the first thing we heard, I think all of us have heard the first time we took up linguistics is stop judging languages. I think that is
Right,
the most common
right.
thing we heard. Okay, so the
And on
next,
top of it, it let us know about the workings of language,
Exactly.
which
yes,
is it's
we see
really,
beyond talking. It's not just
yeah,
language, it's not what we talk, we see
yes,
beyond that.
It is like
Okay,
in the
so
real life scenario, you're getting to know about languages in the real life scenario, its workings, its nitty gritty and
yeah.
everything.
In schools we are taught many languages, so it might not have got any practical approach in life, but linguistics has got its own practical approach. It is so relevant and so much practical. So, yeah,
shall I move on to the next?
Yes,
sure.
yes.
Yes, since you all mentioned linguistics is technical, which it is actually technical as well as scientific. We come across phonetics, which is purely physics and biology. Then we would come across neurolinguistics, which is I think completely biology at a certain point of time. So, how would you suggest people with a pure humanities background or people with no science background particularly approach with this, because this might prove a bit difficult at a certain point of time, studying physics or biology suddenly in masters, that would be a bit difficult. So how do you suggest we move on with that, or we handle that from the very first?
Okay.
Um, uh, about the suggestion that you said, like those who come from non-linguistic background and we are getting into linguistics. First thing I think I would say that not coming with any preconceived notion that we are about to study a language in this particular way or this particular matter or certain ways. Okay, we are studying linguistics like we study English in a certain way, but linguistics is totally different. It is, as we all agree, a scientific and systematic study as a discipline. As I mentioned earlier, also, like the idea of grammar that we get in school is so different from the linguistic grammar that we get to know. Even the way we study English in college, coming with those kind of notions. So I would suggest that not to come with any these kind of preconceived ideas about how you are about to go with linguistics, about to go with the subject, uh, because that doesn't help. Because that doesn't really help. As Shantini said, that we treat all languages as equal in linguistics, and when we do studies of languages, if you know the certain principles, you can analyze any language.
Right.
Those kind of ideas, background or past experiences, if I can say, or the preconceived notions, that should be left aside. So that will help if we don't mix up those ideas of grammar and our teachings in school and our teachings in literature classes. So I think that should be avoided.
uh, Atreyi?
So I would like to say that uh, when you take up masters in linguistics, coming from a different field altogether, and when you said that it has to do with biology and other science related areas, it's not that you're completely uninformed. You must have done a bit of you must be aware of certain things in school. You've been taught certain things in school, so you still have those concepts. And it is a conscious decision on your part to take up masters, so you are coming with the idea that you are going to learn something new at the master's level. So you're just going to learn something new. It is not rocket science. It is you're going to learn about the voice box, or how sounds are created within the voice box, or etc., etc., anything related to phonetics.
or phonology for that matter. So it is something new. You're going to learn something new. You're going to add on to already your pre-existing ideas about certain things. I mean, it's not that you're unaware that you have vocal cords in your throat or how they work, and so you are already aware. You're just adding on more information to that. So as Rajeshwari Ji said, uh, have an open mind when you're coming to this field, and just don't merely see it as another degree that you're going to add on to your CV. You're going to learn something new, and it's going to be interesting, and it's going to be nice. It's going to be lovely if you give it an opportunity. It is a vast area. Just be open to it. It has lots of opportunity. That, I mean, if you can explore it, you're the king. Uh, that's what I wanted to say.
Okay, Shantini.
My take kind of similar to what they have said already. Like preconceived notion is not going to help us. And again, being in, keeping that interest in your subject would definitely help you out. Learning something new would definitely, add something to your life, if not to the CV, right? So we cannot judge our life based on the CV all the time. And definitely what R3 said, like, we are not unaware of the fact that we have got a voice box. We have two lips, and through which we produce bilabial sounds. It's that we have taken these bilabial sounds for granted. We never knew about this before taking up linguistics, right? So it's really, I think, once you get along with the subject, it will be able to teach you so many new things. Your world view will get widened. So I think we should give it a good try, so that we can learn the subject in a better way. So that's all.
Okay, there's one more question. This is not very formal. This is a fun question. Since we all are linguists, and we are linguists in the making, you are already established as linguists. How often have you all judged people listening to how they talk secretly? Since we are not allowed to do that legally, we don't judge language here. But how often have you done that? It strikes the ears. Okay, this person is pronouncing it wrong, or this person should be pronouncing it in a better way. Something is wrong with his articulation. How often have you done that?
Yeah, I would say judgments are definitely not there, but yes, observations are there. So
Right.
sometimes observation do come in mind, and most of the time we don't take effort to rectify the problems in the pronunciation of the person that we are having a conversation with. But because the person might not be from the linguistics background, he might not entertain
Yeah.
me, right? So, and it's fine. I mean, you know. Having people having different pronunciation, having different approach to pronunciation is quite fine, because we cannot we Indians, we cannot condition us to speak a native language speaker, right? Because we are not conditioned like that. Just like in this sort of first language interference would be there in our pronunciation too. So, and that is also linguistics which taught us, like, why not only what is happening, we all linguistics also taught us, like, why it's happening. So yeah, this is what happens, I mean.
Okay, so since our sir is requesting you to move on to the field of study, so I would like all of you to talk about your respective field of studies. We would like to start with Rajeshwari Dutta.
My field of study is I study a lesser known language called Limbu, and it's spoken around the West Bengal and Sikkim border. That is my field area. I have undertaken a number of field visits for my work. But I would like to, as an experience, I would begin with that since I'm an outsider to the community, there were certain notions I had about whether I would be able to accept, or whether I would be able to make them understand my purpose and what I am going to do, or I'm expecting them to help me out. Uh, I began, for my work, I have both, I would say, a structured questionnaire and observation method that I undertake. Uh, in this the whole process of getting into the community, I have been to the field through, I would say, in my initial visits, I had entered the community without any so-called local person, so-called contact person, uh, who would introduce me to the community or give me an introduction. Okay, this person is this, and he or she is doing this kind of work. You are about, please give her time and all. So that time, I came in contact of a person who was not a member of my community, Limbu community. He was a member of another community. And here I would like to mention that my field area has some restricted timing to visit, like 2 months in the summer and 2 months before the winter. So the timing is somewhat restricted to visit my field area. And recently I noticed that in the many areas of North Bengal, Darjeeling, those sites, they have this have begun this business of homestays. So each and every house has this facility of a homestay, and they bank on those timings, those 2 months in summer and before winter for their livelihood. So they remain very busy. So at that time, initially when I went, it was end of February or beginning of March. So I got very good response there. The tourist timing was not didn't began in that way, and the contact person took me to almost each and every house, each and every Limbu house that he knew, and introduced me to them. Uh, that was my pilot survey, and I began with that. Then the next time when I went, it was in the peak season of the tourism, I would say. At that time, I got no help. There was no help. Actually, even the homestay that I was staying, those were filled. Uh, and the earlier informants that I had visited during my pilot survey, even they were busy. So they had no time to sit with me or try to understand what I am willing to do or trying to do. So then, after my few initial visits, after and then later, it was getting very, very difficult for me to get informants, and leave alone sitting with them and trying to make them understand. It was getting very difficult to get informants. We didn't start collecting data. So then, after a certain period of time, my supervisor helped me out in this, and she gave me a number of a contact person. Through her, through her, I contacted somewhere in near Kalimpong, and that person, the sir, he taught economics in Kalimpong College. He took me to my community's association. So in that association, there were representatives of different blocks, different areas, all the members of the Hindu community. So out of that, that association, uh, uh, the representative of the area where I go and I went and began my work. Uh, he helped me out. He began from there, and I would say, like, without him, I could have really began collecting my data or begin my work. So then later he took me and introduced to one of the very, very uh, uh, active, I would say, member of the Lingu community who works with language uh, um, and even the language, also the other cultural activities he takes part, and he introduced me there. So there, it helped me out in the sense that he was an insider of the community, and with him, it brought certain kind of trust, which I personally didn't have. So if since he introduced me, there was a certain kind of acceptance, certain kind of trust that came from him, and I got certain advantage from that. And that is how I could get into the community, get to know the community. And then I started my work. And again, there is this acceptance and trust issue is different. So that is how I started to know the community and get into my actual work of data collection. That is how it all began.
Okay. Sayantani, would you like to talk about your experiences?
Yeah, I'm working on again an Indian language. It's a very much specific Himalayan language. The language is known as Hima language, and which is spoken in that Indo-Nepal border. In a few kilometers of Nepal border, and there I need to visit. And actually, I have been staying in Shiliguri for last 5 to 6 years. So, I could devote my time to my field to optimum level, and that is something really helped me out. Having that time in hand. So what happened is, as Rajeshwari said, like getting into the field initially was a little difficult because locating the field, in particular, was a big job, a big thing. And I could do it with the help of a local school teacher who helped me in getting into the village, letting me know with the villagers and get along with them. Uh, the community is very much welcoming, no doubt, but initially they were very shy. They were not in mood to talk to me at all, since I'm an outsider, quite obvious. Since this is a very small community and very densely networked community, they are very much restricted to themselves only. So getting them out of their shell was little time taking for me. So since I had the opportunity of staying in Shiliguri, and it was little hassle free for me for to visit the village more often. So what I did, I took time to build up my rapport with the villagers as first. I mean, before starting my work. So that the work could be little easygoing for me and for them as well. So it took a little more time for me to make them comfortable with me, to be friends with them, and later on I started with my work. And definitely there are few people, few key members of the community who helped me out in conducting my field work in the villages. And yes, since it's an endangered language, getting informants was having competent knowledge in their native language was a little hard for me, because most of the people, they don't speak the language. So figuring out a number of informants having good knowledge about their language was a tedious job and very tough, I would say. So but since over the time I got to know them all, and I could get access to the people who have not come out of their shell even in years. So they agreed to talk to me, just because of the fact we had that trust or friendship over the time, as I told you before. So that really helped me out in conducting my field work. And if you talk about the questionnaires and all, I have a mixed method. uh, both structured interview, semi-structured interview, and open interview. So I had to conduct these three. Then again, I would mention that this strategies of conducting interviews were not pre-planned. You cannot pre-plan them. By judging the vibe of your field, you need to change your strategies, because the strategy of field number one won't work for the field number two. So when I was building up on my trust, when I was trying to get along with the villagers, I was trying to judge their nerve, like what could be the proper way to get the The most important thing is we are to gather the natural language data, right? And that is the biggest challenge. You are sitting in front of an informant with your camera and recorder on. You cannot expect them to be that natural with you, right? But once you get along with your informant for a few long time, after sometimes they will be like, okay, fine, we can be free with you. So they can open up other minds in front of you. So you need to devote that time to them so that they can come out of their shell and can express themselves to you. So as I told you, like different interview patterns I had to take up to conduct my field work, and I'm still working on it. As I told you, I make frequent visits, and I get very much on and off between my place and my field. And many of times I go to the field, I come to home with no data at all. Right, it happens. Many of the times. I mean, if I go for 10 days, I might get data from for only 5 days. It might happen. But I'm not talking only data only in terms of records. As a researcher, you are in a village. You are talking to the villagers. You are talking to your informants. You are observing them. This also can serve as a data to you, right?
Right.
And that should be taken into account too. So that participant observation method, what Rajeshwari also mentioned, it's very, very important, right? Because sometimes you ask something, they answer you something, but in actual practice, they do something else, right? So unless and until you observe the people, for a very close approximation, you won't be able to, you won't be able to get the actual practice that they do have. They might say you we do this, but they're actually doing something else. So you need to have both the data, what are they are doing and what they're saying, right? So many times you might get different outcome. Many times, in my case, it happened plenty times. So again, you have to work on it, and you have to judge like what is actually what is actually important, the data that you got out of interviews and the data that you got out of your observation, and then you have to what should I say, double check both the outcomes.
Right. Atreyi, would you share some of your experiences?
Yeah, so I am studying the anti-language or the code language of pickpockets and burglars in West Bengal. Uh, in itself, as you can see, the data, unlike Rajeshwari D and Sayantani, it is very difficult for me to even study the language, that kind of language in a natural environment. Obviously, I can't visualize, or I don't think anyone can visualize me following pickpockets or burglars for that matter and gathering data. So yes, it has to be these interviews that I carry out. It started with my supervisor, Selvin Jesse, introducing me to a police officer who was a high-ranking police officer, who introduced me to another police officer, and then who introduced me to criminals and ex-criminals that he knew, and that is how it began. So with the interview method, it is not a structured interview at all. First of all, I have to tell you that these interviews are strictly carried out in police stations. They are in itself chaotic. There are lots of things happening in a police station. um, I have not conducted interviews outside a police station, that is in regards to both my police informants as well as my criminal informants or ex-criminal informants for that matter. Uh, i have to sit, and these interviews are essentially conversations where most of the time I'm not allowed to even record them for keeping their identities secret or confidential, especially when it comes to my criminal or ex-criminal informants. informants. Why? Because these informants, the ex-criminals as well as criminal informants, have an alternate identity within the society that we live. So first we have to understand that we all live in a society. The criminals are also part of the society, but their society, uh, but they have a smaller society which consists of criminals based on the kind of language that they use, which is a code language that they use to converse with people who are aware of the same. I mean, if they're speaking criminal language X, say a pickpocket is speaking a language for pickpocketing, then the other person who he is speaking to, he or she is speaking to, is also a speaker of the same language. All right, they would not use it outside normal use. That is normal use in the sense that they only use these languages to carry out the work that they're doing. That is pickpocketing here. Otherwise, they would be using mainstream language, or the language that we are using. Mainstream as in language that we usually speak. That would be Hindi, Bangla, English, Oriya, anything, etc., etc. It would not be anti-language, so to speak. Anti-language in the sense that they are living in a society, uh, with, within a society, but they have another subculture going on about it. So, which is anti to that culture that we have. So, and the language that they're using is used to carry out crime, so to speak. So that's why it's anti-language. I'm saying it, labeling it as anti-language. So yes, as for carrying out interviews with these people, especially the criminal uh, counterpart, uh, it is very difficult because they have a very strong identity attached to their anti-language. So I'm a pickpocket. I would be using a particular language. It is my trade language. This is how I earn. And anyone, there are in-group identities, strong in-group identities involved with it. So if I am saying that to an outsider, which who I am, they are reluctant to give that information. So I have to face questions every time I am going and interviewing, even if that person is the same person that I have interviewed before. So there will be new rapport buildings every time. Unlike what probably Rajeshwari and Sayantani does not have to face, I have to build rapport with my criminal informants every time. Because they are reluctant to give information. They keep asking me the same question: what are you going to do with this information? Are you going to pickpocket, or are you going to burgle? That's the question that I have to face. So I have to assure them that no, this is not the case. And as for keeping their identities confidential, I do not have a formal sheet saying that I cannot disclose your information, personal information, because most of them probably cannot read. And if they can read, they will be panicked if they see, a contract there. What is this about? Why are you asking asking such things? Or what do you want to? They will get more panic. So, and I don't have a list of questions for exactly the same reason in front of them. I don't have a questionnaire. I think of certain questions beforehand, and I will be asking them, or just letting them, have a conversation, listen to them, write it down on paper. Yeah, that's about it. So it is difficult carrying out fieldwork in the area that I am doing, carrying out, just on the basis that they are reluctant to impart with any information, because it's a strict no-no. Also, that since there's a strong in-group identity going on, if they are giving this information to me, and someone from the same group is aware that an outsider happens to know about this information, that would kind of immediately negate that person's identity or membership to that particular community. So if a pickpocket is giving me information, it will be kind of, you're a traitor kind of thing that is happening. It might happen, I don't know, it can happen. So they are very reluctant to give that information. But my police informants are more or less open about it. They talk about it. They are aware because they deal with criminals. They have been dealing for a while. So for a while with them, so you get information from them also. Yeah.
Okay, so how do you pick your interviews? Like, what are the qualities, or what is it that you look for before you start interviewing somebody, or you think someone fit to be interviewed? Do you have some specific domains you look first in somebody, and then you pick up a person, or is it like you collect data from anybody who is willing to give you some data?
Are you
Actually,
Uh, I
anybody
would
can
say
start.
that before actually starting to collect data, uh, we need to spend at least a certain amount of time with the community. I will not go and start collecting data with from anybody and everybody, but I would go and talk to anybody and everybody who is from the community, and get to know them, like try to understand if how they are responding to me, or cooperating with me, or suppose just like if I say spending certain time in the community, and before actually starting my work, uh, uh, to see their daily lives, if you get the opportunity, uh, daily practices, ritual practices, or just asking someone to take me for a walk and just have a talk with me, and get to see place that I'm new in. So before actually starting to collect data, spending some time with the community and talking and communicating with anyone who is available to communicate. So from them you get an idea, you get the direction. Okay, I can get this person. It is very important to make your purpose understand. Like, you make them understand your purpose, why you are there, and the amount of time that you are needing, you are demanding from them. It's important to make them understand that, uh, uh, knowing that how much time they will be spending with you. So many times I have seen that there, not seen, I have heard like examples. The person has begun data collection, but then the informant for some of the other work has gone in other areas, other states, and then there was no trace of the informant. So actually, the work began, but then it couldn't be completed with that particular informant, and then it had to be taken up with somebody else. So it's important to make them understand your purpose, and then you get an idea of who your probable informants would be after doing this initial homework and all that thing. Uh, and I personally have certain experiences of collecting data, staying at the informant's place. So that has been a total different experience from staying in some other place of the informant, traveling daily to his or her place. So that is how I would say I selected my informants, and after money, apart from this time thing and the purpose thing, uh, who has the knowledge of the language that you are working in, who has some knowledge about the practices. She is a elderly person. You will get a lot of cultural data, a lot of stories from him, and language data also. So that is how I would say I chose my informant in that way, both male and female.
Shantanu, right. Shantanu, moving on to you. How do you do this?
Yeah, I mean, before choosing your informants, it's very important to make clear that what your objective of study is. Like, depending upon the objective of the study, your informant would vary. Like, if somebody wants to study a language from a very core linguistic point of view, then that person needs to look for a different sort of informant. And if you really want to study a language from a social linguistic point of view, right, then you can go for a separate sort of informant. So depending upon the purpose of your work, you need to look for your informant. Then again, if somebody is working on from a very core linguistic point of view, definitely, criteria is to get somebody who is quite a bit competent over the language, who has got a good command over his language, over his own mother language. Then again, I would say, like, since we are working on endangered languages, it's really hard to get somebody who had got a very full-fledged competence on language. Even if you get, it's much likely to have somebody who would be quite elderly, right? And what happened in my case, when I got a very good informant, having a very good command over his language, unfortunately, he has a fallen teeth reach. So when I was interviewing him, it was really difficult for me, to get the exact sounds of the language, because I wasn't able to judge the exact sounds. But again, if I exempt him from getting interviewed just because of his fallen teeth, then I won't be getting the data. Now, if I look after somebody who is young enough, who has got perfect pronunciation, that person might not be that competent in his language. So in that case, what happens? Like, you can go for both. You can go for both if possible. That's what I say. Like, time is very important if you are doing, field work. Time is like money, and time is very important. Like, many times, like, generally what happens, as I said, like, my instance is a little different since I'm staying in Shiliguri. I could afford to go there like anytime I like. But like, somebody is traveling from outstation, they have got a very limited time in their hand, like 2 weeks or 1 month, or suppose 2 months at a stretch. So what happens in that time? You have to utilize in both the case, finding out the proper informant for your work and get your work done by that time you have got. So it turns out to be very challenging at times, right? So yes, getting informant is really a big deal. And getting a good competent informant, it's really a big deal. You might get competent informants, but if those informants would really come and work, that's a big question that you need to judge as a researcher, right? When you are in a field, so you are getting your field of work into the field. So what we have read in books, we are to apply the field. So many things that you read in books, like in field linguistics, we get to know that uh, we should judge, few things before we go for choosing an informant. But many times we have to compromise with those qualities because of the unavailability of proper informants, proper speakers. So these are the problems which remain there, and we have to deal with this in a very tactful manner.
Like, so moving on to Atreyi, how would you do this?
So first of all, I don't have the luxury of choosing my informants because it is very difficult to come across them. Since I go through channels of the police and I'm not approaching it through the criminal channels, because obviously me coming from a certain socio-economic class, I do not have access to them. And I have to approach to the police, so it gives a completely different flavor to the way I'm approaching them. For them, when I'm approaching criminals or ex-criminals for that matter, it becomes a matter of it's a formal thing, or sometimes they are scared because they a particular policeman or police officer has asked him or her to give me information, so they are sort of coerced at times, and sometimes they are in the fear, because like I have come across one informant where the policeman was sitting there and he was saying, tu information de na hole tor mama toke dekhe nebe. Mama is like someone who is a familiar policeman. So there are those situations where there is coercion, but then I try to not do that. I try to make them comfortable as much as possible. I just let them speak, and And as for asking for informants, I try to approach both male and female informants, and they do exist, and most of the information I get from them, and some of the information I do get from the police officers. As I said before, they are aware of these happenings that are like these phenomena that is happening, so they give me information as well. So thereby I don't have this luxury of choosing okay, I will be wanting this particular type of informant. As and also you have to assume that these informants, the criminal informants, are definitely well versed in their language, because if they are not, especially I'm talking about pickpockets, because they're doing it in the whole thing happens within like matter of 2 minutes or something, under 2 minutes, and you won't even realize that they're pickpocketing. So they have to be well versed in their language. If they are not, if there are hesitations, the mark or the person that they are going to be pickpocketing, or other people might be aware that there is some kind of activity going on that they won't be liking. So it might be it come to it might act as a backlash for them, so they don't want to do that, they want to avoid it. So they have to be well versed in it. You have to assume that and go ask them about the information.
So, you see, three of you, like Rajeshwari and Sanskrit, you are working on endangered languages, and Atreyi working on the terms used by burglars or pickpockets. So, how necessary is it to learn the language associated with your field? Have you ever considered learning their language? For instance, Atreyi learning body language or a language codes used by burglars, or Sanskrit and Rajeshwari learning their languages. Is it really necessary? Uh, Maybe.
Uh, um, uh, I think when you start working with the language for us, and you are dealing with that language for a certain period of time, you actually get to learn the language. You will ultimately know that language, but before that, we go without any language knowledge background. We do not know the language when we go to the field. But I think there is an important thing to that is needed is like any language with the help of which you can communicate with them. You can communicate with them and make them understand your position or work. That can be any language that you think is fit for your area of field work. And the way you begin with that communication, and if you are studying language from a linguistic point of view, I would say in a matter of time you will, being a linguist and being a field worker, studying a language in the way we are taught in our classes, you will get to learn the language. You will get to understand the language. If you are spending a certain amount of time, continuous time in the field, it gives you a certain advantage of grasping that language and getting to know that language. That is what I would say.
Okay, Shantini, would you like to talk about it?
Yes, for working on a lesson and language, it's not always necessary to learn about the language. But of course, it's an added advantage for you if you are learning that language and then getting into a field. But in my case, it wasn't the case because I could not get to learn the language because there are very less works. I mean, the language that I'm working on is linguistically treated very less. So I hardly had any idea about the language. So initially, what I had to do, I had to take help of mediator. So I had to take somebody who knows the language along with me while doing the field work. And what happens is that the field that I am working on, I'm working in, where Bangla partially works, but most of the people, they are well conversant with the other dominant languages. They are like Rajbangshi and Nepali. So what happens is this, like I choose private public vehicle to travel to village. So what happens is that after getting down from the bus, I have to wait in the toto for at least 40 minutes to get it filled, because unless and until the toto is filled, the driver won't drive you to the village. So what happens? I have to wait for 40 minutes. By that time, I used to interact with the people of the adjacent villages who do speak either Nepali or Rajbangshi. So while doing so, I get to learn Nepali and Rajbangshi in a very broken manner. So over the time, what happened? The person whom we could not, interact just because of the fact that the person is not well versed in Bangla. But after sometimes I could do it with the help of my broken Nepali and Rajbangshi skill. So that happens, and again happened because of the time that I had. That I'm mentioning all the time, because getting accustomed to different two languages, to get your work done, definitely requires some sort of time. And luckily, I got that time, and I tried to utilize to the fullest. So what happens is that now I don't need any mediator, so I can approach them in person. So if they are not, you know, well versed in Bangla, then I can talk to them either in Rajbangshi and the Nepali as per their convenience, and I try to get my work done.
Atreyi would like to hear from you as well.
Yeah, so in my case, the first thing you have to understand is that the language that these people are using is something to maintain a level of secrecy and to maintain in-group identity, and they have to have a lot of coordination in that sense, but they have to do it in an unobtrusive, subtle fashion. So if a pickpocket goes about speaking completely uh, nonsensical language or something that is marked in that sense, people will be aware immediately that something is going on. So the kind of language that they are speaking is basically, probably it would be Bangla or Hindi, which would be the matrix language, and their uh, technical terms or lexical terms that are very specific to their pickpocketing skills would be used, which would be part of their embedded language, so to speak. I'm using the term matrix language and embedded language in a very loose fashion, okay? In the sense that, they have to, the whole purpose of them using that particular language is not to make their mark or the people aware of the kind of communication that they're having around, in public spaces. Mm, mm, and saying that, and most of the time when they are using this language, say a pickpocket, if they are pickpocketing, they are always pickpocketing in groups. They usually don't do it. One person is not carrying out that thing. So if they are doing that in groups, there would be a lot of body language involved. There would be their anti language involved in it, and gestures also. And when they're doing it, it's usually in crowded public spaces and people are not noticing so much. And even if they are using when they're using their anti-language, or for that matter even in normal spaces, when we are using a language, we're conversing with someone else, you are not always aware of what the other person is saying. I mean, I don't think you register the whole sentences at the same time, so and so spoke this. You can like get the gist of the conversation, but you don't remember each and every single lexical item that is used in a particular sentence. So that's the thing that they're utilizing there. When they're using an anti-language, you're not aware of the each and every lexical item that they're using. So the parts that might sound nonsensical to you, you can't hear. There are disturbances in that environment because there's a lot of shouting. It's chaotic. It's probably happening inside a bus or on the road or on a train or whatever. So it is chaotic. You're not registering all the language sounds or the lexical items, so you don't know what they're speaking. You probably think of it as like, okay, something they're saying, I'm not registering. So yeah, that way, that is the case. I mean, yeah, so I don't have to. And as for me knowing the language, they will not give me the updated version ever, because I don't belong to their group. They are skeptical about me. skeptical is an understatement here. They are skeptical about me. They will not give me the full information. They will probably not even give me the updated information. Because with time, the words that they're using, certain lexical items that are part of their anti-language or their community, has come into so-called mainstream languages. For example, say there used to be this code language or an anti-language spoken by the homosexual men in UK during before the 1960s, before homosexual acts became legal. This language called Polari was used by gay men, especially to converse in public spaces. So if someone came and said, "Can I have a troll about your latties?" you would just think, okay, this person is speaking English, but there are certain terms that I don't know what they mean. But basically, troll has that word troll we are familiar with now, because when someone says, okay, I'm trolling this site, which means you're looking into this particular website or something. So troll has come into the mainstream languages, so to speak, but at some point of time, it was part of an anti-language. So it was secret. So no one else other than those those homosexual men who knew about, aware of those, what those particular words meant. Okay. Yeah. So that's how they went about it. So when I say, can I troll about around your latties stands for house. So can I look about your house? When someone says that, only a person who's speaking polarity will be aware of what the other person is saying. So if a pickpocket is speaking a particular language, only in another pickpocket will be aware of it, and you may be aware of it because you're studying a bit, but you may not be aware of it fully, as you may not be as well conversed with it as they are. You will never be well conversed with it unless you are immersing yourself in their subculture. That is, you're becoming a pickpocket yourself. So yeah.
Okay, so I think a lot of
And with, I would just like to add to what Sayantani said about the mediator thing. When I went for my fieldwork initially, and the dominant language there was like Nepali. I don't know Nepali myself. And then in my first episodes of collecting data, I had to take the help of translator who was listening my sentences in English and then translating to the informant in Nepali. But the problem there was actually I was not communicating with my informant. My translator was communicating with the informant. So what the sentences that I mean in actual meaning or intonation, I don't know what he is actually saying to the informant, and then I am just recording and writing what he just said. So, but later the things became better, I would say, after spending a certain amount of time in the field and listening that language for a certain period of time. Now, just like her also, I do not feel the need of taking any translator or mediator, and then I can go about it with just unbroken competence that I have got in Nepali. So, I think I just wanted to add. That's all.
so
Uh,
there's this
sorry,
one.
I just want to
Yes,
add to what Rajeshwari is saying. I mean, my mediators were police officers, but as I was telling you, with police officers, there is this like uh, curse sort of, because they might be immediately aware that police officer is listening, and they might be, at times they might be scared of that particular police officer. So I usually try to sit with them casually, chat with them, and make them comfortable, and try to somehow take them away from the police officer so that they're a little more comfortable with me and not the police officer around. I don't want them to be they're already panicked that, first of all, they're not aware what exactly I'm doing, and even if I try to explain it to them, they won't understand. For that matter, even most of the police officers don't understand what I'm doing. So I have to, if I try to explain them in details, my time that I have will be gone. there are a lot of interferences in a police station. So they all these people that I'm interviewing, they have their own duties. Say that the police officer may have their duties, or the criminals or the ex-criminals, they have their duties. I have a certain time limit within which I have to work. So if I'm going about explaining what I'm doing, that would be a problem. And I try to, as for the police officers who are my so-called moderators, I try to eliminate them in that sense. I just tell them that this is what is going to happen, and I just go about it, go doing it. I mean, in plain sight, but not something that would make them uncomfortable.
So, what do you think are the other factors that generally, causes trouble or is intervening your interview process, other than this issue that you're talking about? This is like you cannot get the raw data. What Rajeshwari is trying to point out, we are not getting the raw data when we are using an informant. What Atreyi, you are pointing out is presence of a police officer sometimes makes the conversation awkward, or they restrict their knowledge. So, what are the other factors? Are there political issues? Are there sentiments involved? Do you face gender biasness? Anything?
Definitely, there's a gender bias. So I'm going to speak about one of my personal experiences. Uh, so this was one time that I was interviewing one of my ex-criminal informants, and we were sitting in the corridor in a police station. And this ex-criminal also has other duties, because he's no more a criminal. He has other duties that he does for the police. And all of a sudden, I hear him use an abusive word, which was rewarding for me, because let me tell you, I am coming through uh, a channel through the police, so they are immediately uh, aware that okay, I am their police contact, so they have to be formal, they have to be polite, they have to be nice about it. On top of that, I'm a woman, so that is another problem. I don't get to listen to them use abusive words, which I think is a part of any natural emotion. You cannot hide that fact. So, and I think that is also an element of what should be an element of an anti-language, where certain words are derogatory, or have a negative connotation to it. So they might not be giving me information because of those two factors that I said, because I'm coming through police contact and because I'm a woman. So when he used a swear word, I was elated. That's what I can say. I was elated. So I have to sit with them to make them comfortable enough to forget the fact that I'm a woman. Usually, I don't dress in feminine clothes. Usually, when I'm going, I'm wearing a t-shirt and jeans. But despite that, even the way I dress, they immediately can recognize the kind of socio-economic class that I come from. I cannot get to their level. My clothes, my appearance, my way of talking. Creates a gap. There is a huge gap that also adds on to that gap, the way I appear. So I try to do it in those subtle ways. I mean, I am walking into a police station, I can't wear certain clothes. If I wear these dirty clothes, that would immediately make people distrust me. I might gain my criminal informants attention, or their faith, but not with the police officers.
Police. Right.
So I have to keep that in mind. So I have to dress in such a way that I'm not making them aware. Also, you have to keep in mind the place you're approaching. So with different departments, the tone changes. So there might be rowdier crowds in certain departments. Say, for example, if you are approaching the department of snatching, there would be a rowdier crowd, as opposed to maybe if you are approaching a department where they are dealing with white collar crimes. So when I say the crowd, I mean both the criminals as who are maybe there for processing, as well as the police officers. Now these police officers, they have to change. They actually, obviously, since they are dealing with certain people day to day, mostly they are criminals that they're dealing with. They're already. It is very difficult to come out of that role. They might have to be. They might have to appear strict with a certain crowd, which they cannot they cannot do the same with a civilian who's coming with the complaints, or আমার phone চুরি হয়ে গেছে or something like that. So it is difficult from changing the tone that they are approaching a criminal who has actually snatched a phone. I think churi korichish keno or something like that with someone who is coming with sir amar phone churi hoye geche. So it is difficult, but they try to. But again, their attitude changes if their department changes because of the kind of crowd that they're handling. So yes, these are the factors that you have to take into account, and I would like to say that this is starkly different from what we usually think of as field linguistics, or what we expect from field linguistics. This is not studying any other language in a scenario where you can embed yourself within the culture. You can be part of their community. You can see them working. Maybe if you're working with endangered languages, in case of both Rajeshwari and Sayantani, you can be part of their culture and community. So at some point, they will be welcoming you. But with this community, they will not do that. So you have to understand that, you have to keep in mind, unless like you have any kind of way into that community that is being like trying to embed them yourself as a part of a criminal community, I don't think they will be accepting you. So it is very difficult to get data from them even in natural environment. It is not possible. It is not possible unless you are a criminal and you're actually eliciting all that data and writing all that data down and recording it somewhere. It's not possible. Or for that
Shantanu,
matter, being a police officer and
Yes.
right.
would you like to add to this?
Yeah, actually, my experience is a little different and that quite obvious. And it's absolutely a contrast to what Atreyi had to face in her work. I think being woman turned out to be a big favor in my case. To be very frank, I could make my way to the community through the woman family members only. And being married worked even as an added advantage for me. So what they do, they used to talk about like my families, like when did you get married? Okay, so you are staying here. So you can very get along with them, and somehow people have a better trust issue. I don't know, like I'm not going to judge this situation, but people do get a better trust issue in case you are a woman. I don't know. I mean, it sometimes works in this way. So I think being woman really worked in a favorable manner in my case. And I share a very interesting experience in this regard. Once what happened is that I attended a marriage in a village, and just after 1 week, I decided to get back to my to that particular place to do some of my field work. So what happens is that when I got back to my field, uh, like just after that marriage, what happened that newly wedded couple came to visit her family. I mean their family. So I had a plan. I had a total plan like what I'm going to do that day, but with the constant insistence, the constant request, and they insisted me so much that I had to roam around the village with a newly wedded couple, and I had my breakfast, my lunch, and my evening snacks in different homes of the village. So yes, and they said like, okay, so you are like a beti to us. Like তুই তো আমার বেটি, তো আমার এক বেটির বিয়ে হয়েছে, তুই আর এক বেটি ঘুরতে যায়, just like the concept of অষ্টমঙ্গলা. So just I had to roam around with a newly wedded couple the whole day, and I came back home with a full stomach but no data in my hand. So this is a very funny, nice experience. So my experience in this regard obviously stands as a sharp contrast to what Atreyi had to face in her case. So that would I say in my field experience.
Rajeshwari, would like to
Yeah, listening to what Shantini said, I would like to add that she said that being married helped her in certain way in the field, and the fact that she's a woman, I'm a woman too. I would say that I also had an added advantage. It is I was accompanied by my mother to each and every field work that I have taken. So here, I think I would club Anushtup's question the question that he asked.
Experiences.
Um, about gaining confidence, or it was something like that about gaining confidence, was to Bhattacharya.
That was from somebody else.
So the fact that she accompanied me to each and every field work, it helped me in certain rapport building. While I was working with my informant, trying to build a rapport with him or her, trying to engage him or her in my conversations and my interests, my curiosity about the language, about the culture and the community. Uh, one incident I would say, taking from here. One day in between taking break during the data collection, I just went to check that what my mother was doing. I went and found that in the kitchen there were two women. One was the lady of the house, and one was my mother. So one was cooking, and the other was cutting vegetable. So I saw him when I came back. So that kind of incidents, if that happens, it was another kind of rapport building that was happening. She was kind of communicating with another member of the family, with another member of the community, and I was with my informant doing this and that work. So that thing I would say was an added advantage, along, if I can add, to Sayantani. So that really helped me in gaining confidence. If I say, and she being an elderly lady, brings certain, if I can say, brings certain confidence, or at least eliminates the distrust factor in that way, if I can say that. That was an added advantage, I will say, in my case.
Okay. See, there are loads of questions that have already come up, so I will just directly go to the last question that I had for you all. That is, you are interacting with a variety of communities on a daily basis, with every time you step into your field. So, what are the risk factors in these cases, in this field work? I'm sure there are some risk factors. Interact a lot of different people. So, can you just talk about that also? Atreyi, please start with it.
About my risk factor, I don't have any risk factor as such because I am carrying it in within police stations, and since I don't approach the criminals, I have been asked not to approach the criminals in at their homes, ex-criminals or criminals, because of the whole reason that probably there is a safety issue for them, in the sense that their identity, alternate identity, would be revealed. I don't want to threaten it at this point. Maybe if I gain more trust in the future, maybe I will be approaching them, since it is still an ongoing process and it is not like other people who have been carrying out field surveys, because you can't go to the field saying, today I will go and I will get this amount of data. Even if in natural field work that is not possible, but it is doubly not possible in my field because there are a lot of other distractions and other things at play. So I have not approached them in their natural habitat at their home at this point, because the other if the community in which they are living, that is, they're living just like us, they're probably living in a slum. If I'm approaching them, maybe someone will ask, why did this person come to visit you, and they might not have an answer for that, and their identity might be revealed. So the kind of shaky trust that I have gained with them, I will lose it immediately. They will not be even giving the data that they were giving me in the first place. So that is one risk that way. And otherwise, the police officers are very courteous. They're very nice. Even the criminals, I have only taken interviews of ex-criminals as now. They may be rough edged, but they are well behaved in that way. They will not misbehave with me or something. So I don't have risks, so to speak. I don't have risks. I'm in a safe environment that way. Yeah.
Shantanu?
Yes, I have to say, like, I did not have to face any risk as such, but yes, there have been some sort of inconveniences that I am really facing on a daily basis, and inconvenience might come in several forms to you, not only in case of communities. As I told you, the places that I do travel, I get to talk to people coming from different backgrounds, not only from Dhimal or Rajbangshi or Nepali. There are people, coming from different backgrounds called, they call it locally, they are named as Adivasis, but there are different other communities like Orao, Santalis, Tharu. There are plenty communities staying there. So initially, I had a problem like in communicating with them, but later on I realized like communicating with them in Nepali, either in Nepali or Rajbangshi will do. Like all of them do know any of these two languages. So in that case, I could eradicate my inconveniences later on in the later part of my field work by communicating with the other community members. Even though I don't know the language of their own, I could communicate either in Rajbangshi or, of course, in a broken form in Nepali. So that helped me a lot. But risks as such, I did not have to face by far. And it's a very safe place, very safe place. Of course, it's one of the furthest corner of your country. Most of the times what happens, I'm in a field and my mobile catches the tower of Nepal, so I cannot call my home back. Okay, so in any case, in anything happens to you, you won't be able to inform your family. So these are the inconveniences are there, but I don't count them into risk, because right now, I have the trust. Not only they have the trust upon me, I have got the trust upon them as well. So I know even if it's 6 in the evening, I'll be safe to get back to my home from the village. So that trust I have got as well. So I don't count them as a risk at all. Those are the happy inconveniences that I embrace.
Right. Rajeshwari?
If you talk about risks, there are a few general risks in doing field work or field linguistics, like very general things like traveling and transportation and being to the remotest parts of our country, natural issues, flooding, landslides. Leaving that, I would call that I face challenges, that we face more than risks. We face challenges in the field. Uh, being like fieldwork is a collaborative thing, work, and we need to depend on so many other people and so many other factors to get to do our work. And that thing of depending and brings certain kind of uncertainty, less of possibilities. There is this language barrier when when I went first to the field, when the informants being uh, uh, not knowing the language of the language that you will communicate in. So it is difficult to communicate, the language barrier again. And that initial task of getting into the community, that gaining some kind of building some kind of a rapport, trying to establish contact, throughout the process, trying to establish contact, trying to establish a network. So that initial thing are the challenges that I faced. So I would say more than the risks, they are the challenges that I face in the field work.
And one thing I would like to add to what Rajeshwari has said, like I have mentioned, partly before as well, like, you might go to the field with a very pre-planned strategies would definitely fail you in the field. That's for sure. And you have to make your strategy for the field itself, right? The last time when I visited the village, I had to roam around the village via Toto for 120 minutes in just a Toto. Yes, that's very long. So I don't know when I'll get down from the Toto, right? So these are the few inconveniences would come up to your way of work. Definitely that would come, and you have to make your mind to that these sort of circumstances would definitely come on your work, on the way to your work, definitely. So strategies definitely you have to make, but they might fail you even. So on spot strategies are to be made for
Yeah,
sure.
as I like, I want to add on to what Shantani said, just go with an open mind. You might do a lot of reading before you go to the field, but anything goes. I mean, anything can happen. So you have to roll with it. Essentially, I mean, anything can come up. You have to use your own thoughts, and that you have to take decisions, and you have to ad lib essentially in that kind of situation. So you have to be careful how you're dealing with it, but you have to strategize immediately. That's all. Yeah.
I mean, the freedom of thought is actually about your work, but it also teaches you about life, right?
Exactly.
Right? You cannot a lot of things about your life. It helps you to be a better human.
I also have a similar experience like Shantani. She has the advantage of she remains closer to the field as compared to me. I travel from here to Darjeeling. I make a plan for say for last 10 days or 1 week. I'm making this and that plan. I will go and meet this and that person. I will go to this place. One day I will keep for this informant. 2 days for that informant. These are the timetables, and I'm so prepared with all the timetables that I make. And then when I reach the field, I can start sensing that none of my plans are going to work. So the first 2 days, I'm just idle. So then at the time I'm sitting and again rethinking to what to do next because none of my plans are going to work. So that same thing, similar things happened to me as well, and I remember that what Shantanu said. So that's it.
There is one more thing I would ask you before we move on to the comment section. That is, what are the other ways we can get into PhD if we are not clearing net?
If you have not
If we are
cleared,
not clearing net, if we are not sitting for the exam, what are the other ways we can get through the PhD?
okay, there are universities which conduct the RET examination, research eligibility test, where you have to take the test on the basis of your linguistic background. And once you get selected, then you get called for the interview. And then, again, if your concerned authority finds you to be suitable one to get that candidature for that PhD, you can do it. So it happens. I mean, even if you are NEET qualified, you have to appear for the interview. If not for the written test, you have to appear for the interview. In case you are not qualified for the NET, you have to take the written test. So then the platform is the NET and the RET both are valid.
Atreyi, would you like to say something?
Yeah, I would agree with what Shantani has said. There are universities where you can sit for these entrance exams, which you qualify, and you appear for the interviews. Just having a NET or a JRF automatically qualifies you not to sit for the entrance exam, but you still have to face the interview. So it doesn't mean that if someone is NET qualified or has JRF, is more qualified than a person who's sitting for their entrance exam just because he or she does not have one at that point. They just have to face an added challenge in the form of an exam. So it might happen that during the interview, someone who has JRF or NET may not perform as well as a person who has sat through an entrance exam, qualified that, and came for the interview. Not that I'm saying that that is always the case, or that I'm downplaying any of the roles of anyone appearing for a qualifying NET, JRF, or anything. But I'm saying that it is a possibility and it has happened. So don't be disheartened just because you don't have a NET or a JRF and you cannot apply for PhD. There are universities, you have choices, still have options. So don't let that worry you too much.
Rajeshwari Dutta, would you like to add?
Yeah. Sound is too heavy by my background. I'm so sorry. You have this institute exams. If you are not clearing the NET, you have the exam of the institute through which you can apply. And generally, they have the whole linguistic syllabus or the RET exam. I mean, for the institute exams or the RET that Shantini was talking about. I think apart from the NET, there are individual institutes exam through which you can get into a PhD and focus on the core linguistic syllabus of our university to get prepared for that exam. What I will say.
Okay, so we are already running short of time. I would request Arundhati to take up the comment section questions. She'll be taking the questions from here on. Arundhati?
Yes, thank you, Anindita. Thank you, speakers. And I would like to give a special thanks to our audience for all these comments and questions. Now let's moving on to the comment section. First, we have Alia Chaudhuri. Best wishes to all the speakers. Then the comment is from Obhijit sir, one of our professors. Seems to me very enlightening discussion for the students. Coordinator is performing excellently. Next, we have the comment from one of our professors, Meena ma'am. It is playing the role of an introduction to the subjects, especially to our new first semester batch of students. Now we have another comment from one of our professors, Aditi ma'am. Very proud of our students, former and current. Another comment from Obhijit sir, very useful conversation for the first sem students. Now we have a question from Anushtup Bhattacharya for Rajeshwari Di. What are the steps you took to win the speaker's confidence for data collection? And I think the question has already been answered. So we are moving on to the next question. Next, we have the comment from Shayan Mukherjee. Great initiative. Thanks to the Department of Linguistics. Would you like to share any interesting story that you can remember when doing your field work? I would like to ask this question to all of our three speakers. Atreyi, would you like to share something?
Well, as I said, that police stations are chaotic. I can just remember at this point, it is a funny anecdote. So I was sitting in the corridor and interviewing my. I was sitting and waiting for my informant, criminal informant, to come, and then I see that they are bringing in a man who probably has done something. I don't know exactly his crime. So he has ropes tied around his hand, and a police officer is leading him. And his body language is that his head is down, and he looks repentant about his act. And some police officer was standing in the corridor. He was chatting with other police officers, and he sees this person and says, I don't know what his name is, Kirebil to Kamonachi, he says. And his demeanor changes immediately, and he's like, sir, bhalo achen, sir. And the police officer funnily says, কতদিন পরে এখানে এলি কি ব্যাপার স্যার ভুল হয়ে গেছে স্যার স্যার so he was it is just like a normal conversation. He comes from a different the person is a criminal, and this is they're from two sides of the law, but they're still having a conversation which is funny in itself. So these kind of funny things happen in a police station. I mean, it's chaotic, but there are these funny experiences that happen. This has no relation to my fieldwork other than me experiencing it. Yeah.
Thank you, Atreyi. Rajeshwari Di.
Yes, I would like to share my first field experiences that I took, and that was actually the beginning of my journey into getting into the work of language documentation that I'm doing. And I got the opportunity to work in that SPPL program, which I just mentioned, Scheme for the Protection and Preservation of Endangered Languages, along with Pranavishta and our principal investigator, Professor Minada. We visited, our field was in the borders of UP and Nepal border. And the community was Tharua or Tharu. And they primarily lived in that border area of Nepal, somewhere staying in Nepal and on the other side of the border, and somewhere on this side of the border. And we could establish a contact through Lucknow University and then get somebody, a native Tharo man, and began our work with him. Uh, Gradually, he talked about other members of his community and his friends, and he brought one of his, I think, in-laws to work with us. Uh, that lady, she was also a Tharu native member, and one thing which was striking at that point was when we started asking about our mother tongue, she responded, returned Hindi, which should have been Tharu. So at that time, the interview was stopped, and but later she was, I would say, she was the main factor. She was the main person who helped us get into the community so seamlessly. We could realize only later that the help that she did. She introduced us to her father, who was coming from a village to a house, and the person whom her father was an excellent, not just an informant, just being a respondent or excellent community member to us as an outsider, who helped us in every possible manner uh, to get us as an outsider into the community. And he gave us so many opportunities for us to participate in their rituals and customs. We had the very good experiences of traveling to those places and staying there uh, nights. We have stayed in their villages 1 or 2 nights, and he like introduced all three of us. He was like a bridge to the community, and we just felt, even being an outsider to the community, we were not insider, but we felt like an insider. So that was his approach to us, and broke all the ices that we had at that time. And I'm so glad to say that I still have contact with them, and it's very rewarding and enriching experience that I have gained. I must be thankful. I'm thankful for that. So that is my first experience, field experience, that I was part of.
Thank you, Rajeshwari. Shantanu, would you like to share some?
Yes, I have got many funny, sweet, nice experiences, but I will share one of them. I will keep it very short. Like during a time of harvesting, I visited the field, and of course, after all the work, I came back home with the 5 kilos of rice, 2 kgs of rice ag, and 1 kg of sweet potatoes. So they were so happy, and when to see me, like I mean, they were just collecting the crops, and they already fixed all the bags for me. So they called on the toto. They placed me in the toto, and the toto dada dropped me into the bus. And when I got back home, my family members, they told me, কাজ করতে গেছিলি তো নাকি বাজার করতে গেছিলি? So this sort of love and affection that I get from them. So it's just a fun experience that I share. Like there are plenty like this, but this is just one of them.
Thank you, Shantanu. Moving on to the next question. This is from Shoumyo Ghosh. Thank you for organizing this kind of talks. I just have one question in mind, that how you all are planning to conduct field work in this post-COVID time. Shantanu, would you like to answer this question?
Since I'm already in Shiliguri and the place is quite close to me, I'm lucky enough I have to conduct my field work already. Like it's been like few days I have been visiting my field, and they are very much comfortable. I had to take the permission, like whether they are okay with me to visit their field in this situation, and they are fine. You just come, wear a mask, and do come. So what I do, I now in this time I am not availing a public transport. What I'm doing, I'm booking a cab and going to the village. So that's what I'm doing, and it's been like 1.5 months that I have started my field work all again. And it's very important to make the people comfortable with you, because it's your work, it's not their work, right? So it's your obligation to visit. So it's very important for you to convince the people that you're working with if they're really okay with you or not. So once I got that assurance from their end, once I found that they're comfortable with me, then only I took the decision to resume my fieldwork.
Okay, thank you, Shantanu Di. Rajeshwari Di.
I have not been able to visit my field in this period of COVID-19. I'm just trying to manage somewhat over the phone, and I don't have that option of accessing them via emails. They don't have that access. I'm trying to manage somewhat over the phone and keeping in contact with them and engaging in some uh, other kind of conversations and just daily some or other activities to get to know what's happening or some if there's any additions to the community. Like recently, they have inaugurated a graveyard beside their villages. They are planning to open night schools. They are planning to. They have applied for to the government officials to introduce their language as a subject. So these few informations and just have casual conversations with them, and that is how I'm keeping in contact and trying to get some data, if I can say, in that way.
Thank you, Rajeshwari Di. Atreyi Di.
So you have to understand that my field work is not like this. It's completely different from this. So in normal times, even I can't carry on field work on a regular basis because main source of information comes from my criminal informants. If I go on a regular basis, that is, if I go regularly, on a daily basis, that would immensely make them aware of how much data they are giving. Even like, so I intersperse it, I give certain time, and then I go and visit them. Saying that during this COVID times, I have not been able to collect data because it is, for me, it is better to physically go and collect data instead of having phone conversations. But I do keep in contact on and off with my police informants. But yes, it is not. I think it is not fine to talk to your criminal informants over the phone because they might be somewhere they're doing some work or may not have access to the phone. So it is not possible. What works for other people may not, it's not going to work for me, so I have to approach it in a different way. So I'm planning to pick up the fieldwork once matters settle down a bit with the COVID times, and I can pick it up. And since I usually approach my police informants first, and they're used to this intermittent contact that they have for collecting data, they're fine with that. So I don't have a problem. I don't face problems in that regard. I hope I will not face problems in that regard.
Thank you, Atreyi Di. Next question we have from Obhijit sir, requesting to clarify the importance for studying endangered languages. Shantanu Di.
I think as a linguist, the first and foremost thing is that we have got some responsibilities. And to be very frank, that in the recent study, it has been found that the rate of extinction of languages exceeds the rate of loss of biodiversity. So languages are even more endangered than the animals, right? And when we are losing a language, we are not losing a language only. We are losing a system. We are losing a culture. We are losing a complete different worldview, right? So unless and until we try to, you know, frame that particular language which is on the verge of extinction, so we'll be losing a complete different worldview, right? Let me share one data with you. um, the recent People's Linguistic Survey of India, which has been conducted during the time of 2010. uh, Dr. Ganesh Davi was the person who took the initiative. The outcome of this linguistic survey is a little worrisome. According to him, it is like in last 60 years, India has lost almost 250 languages, right? and there are plenty more languages which are more likely to get extinct. So if we don't take up this issue as a linguist, then who would, right? So language concerns us. So studying in the endangered language is one of the major area of linguistics. I believe so, and I think it's really important to study endangered languages before they vanishes out. I mean, it's really important. I think so.
Thank you, Shantanu. Rajeshwari, would you like to add something to this?
Yes, I would second what Shantani just said. And learning, I mean, it's important to study endangered languages, and learning endangered languages is like learning any other language. Like anybody can learn the endangered language or lesser known languages. And in the last few decades, it's really an upcoming area of research, studying of endangered languages, language documentation, language description. And we see how different works, different activities, different missions are carried out for this mission of studying endangered languages. So I think that is really important, and it's an added responsibility of us as a linguist to carry out that.
I would like to add something. Like if we get to know that the Eiffel Tower or the Taj Mahal, this monuments were gonna be destroyed, people will be outraged, right? These are the century long monuments, human made monuments. uh, Languages are even way more primitive than these monuments, right? So it takes years and years to build up a language, and it might take a few years to get it out of use. So I think it's really important to preserve those languages as treasure trove. So we need to preserve those treasure troves. We cannot let it go in vain without getting it preserved.
Thank you, Shantanu. Now let's move on to the next question. This is from Shulagna Pal. Is linguistics a practical subject? Do we have to study physics and biology in neurolinguistics and computational linguistics? I think partly answer of this question has already been said, but still I would like to ask Atreyi to give some comments on this. Atreyi.
Well, you might have to learn a bit of it, obviously, because you need to know the workings of it, how it is working. But don't let that dishearten you, or don't let that scare you. And also, as I was saying before, when we were talking about this, is that you are you are learning something new, so you are going to approach it in that way, that you're going to learn something new. It is an added knowledge. I don't see a problem in learning something. You are going to get more knowledge. I mean, the kind of way we are taught, usually it becomes a little restricted, in the sense that we focus on one particular area of study and not the other. So we have limited knowledge about other things, and we have a vast knowledge of other things. Not that I'm saying that it is possible to have knowledge about everything, but then this is like you have another knowledge about maybe how your vocal cords work, how certain things work in your body. So you don't have to learn about the whole biology. You just have to learn a very small bit about it, and it is, I think, perfectly fine to learn about that.
Thank you, Atreyi. Shantanu, Rajeshwari, would you like to add something to this?
Similar to what Atreyi said, I guess. Nothing extra to say. Like, of course, I mean, it's not that you have to study biology or physics going in depth. You have to study those things. You are studying those things in relation to linguistics. So it's fine. I mean, it makes the subject even more interesting, I guess. So you are getting an interdisciplinary approach to your subject. So it's really needed. It's a need of this hour, I think, to make the subjects interdisciplinary.
Thank you, Shantanu. Rajeshwari, would you like to add something more to this?
I will go with the two speakers, and there's nothing additional that I have to add.
Thank you, Rajeshwari. Moving on to the next question. It is from Shastri Vaishampayan Mohapatro, saying, thank you for this inspiring webinar. One question: how will the academic research in endangered languages help those communities? If any, does it really help them? If not, how can we make it happen? Rajeshwari.
Can you repeat the question once again, Arundhati?
Yes, sure. He is asking that how will the academic research in endangered languages help those communities? If any, does it really help them? If not, how can we make it happen?
I would say, like, from the point of view of a linguist, as from the point of view of researcher, uh, the academic research that we do, obviously it is an contribution or addition to the existing pool of knowledge that is we all know. But that one thing that helps is the number of works that are undertaken in a community. It gives an indication of certain development that surrounds them, that surrounds that community or the language. Uh, there are so many works being done in the cultural area, in language area. So I think if it's in various aspects, in multi-faced aspects, if the works are taken of regarding any community, that helps in some way, like in can progress in the sense that there can be a direction of going towards, say, the next step. If they have, for example, I can say if they form an association or with the help of any institute or researcher or any of that sort thing, then they have this agenda of, okay, we have got a place to discuss or impart our language or practices or knowledge to our next generation who are unaware of that. And that thing again, it can lead to, say, if they are good responses, it will lead to certain activities of, like, having a small set of night schools or any home schools, if I can say. So I think that those more and more works in regarding a community or a language will give a direction towards their development or progress, I think.
Thank you, Rajeshwari. Sayantani, would you like to add something to this?
Yes, I will kind of resonate with what Rajeshwari already said. But to add to that, I would say, like, I find this question very relevant. I think as a researcher on a particular language, we really need to reach out to the community people. What generally happens, like, we go, we collect data, we come back, we write our thesis, we get our degree, then the chapter gets finished. I think the chapter starts from there. I mean, since more than work, I'm very much emotionally attached with my community. I think we should reach out to the community even more. Like but like, out of what we can do that? Like, we can make our work available to them, in terms of their way, right? Like, I mean, when I am conducting my field work, I have realized, like, the language is vanishing fast because they lack data. Most of the indentured languages are functional only in spoken form, but they hardly have got any written document. So if you are working on a particular endangered languages, and if you can make your valuable data available to the concerned community people, so that they can utilize those data for their own purpose, I think that could be a great help. And that can bag even institutional support as well, which can eventually lead to set up schools in a very local manner, like localized few schools which can start teaching their own mother tongue, and that might help them out even. I think I find this question very, very relevant, and I think as a linguist, as a researcher of endangered language, we seriously need to think on this.
Thank you, Shantani. Moving on to the next question. This is from one of our professors, Selvin sir. He's asking, did your gender inhibit your data collection given that you were working in a tribal context? I think our speakers have answered this before. He has another question. Did you need to adopt specific subject positions in this regard? The question is to Shantani.
Subject position means, I mean, I could not get that well. I mean,
Uh, he's asking that did you need to adopt specific subjects positions in this regard? Um, I don't
uh,
can explain this.
okay. I believe like no. I mean, I'm assuming what I assumed. I'm trying to answer accordingly. I know if I'm really answering to this question or not, but I mean, if it's talking about a different subject role that I'm supposed to play, I did not so. I tried to be myself all throughout, and what I really the effort that I really needed to put in is to give time to them, to invest my time, to spend my time in them, and to get along with my people, so that my gender, my presence won't make any hindrance into my work.
Thank you so much, Shantanidhi. Moving on to the next question. The question is from Abhijit sir. To Atreyi. Atreyi, is it possible to collect natural data in a police station? I think Atreyi has answered this before, but Atreyi, would you like to add something or whatever you said earlier?
I would like to just say that anyway, natural conversation, even if you're collecting it in a normal field work, there are other disruptions. Say if you're carrying it out in a village scenario, the villagers who are your informants, they have other things to do. So I mean, it is. I think natural is perspective here. It is not possible to get absolute naturalness to the conversations. So yeah, that's all.
Thank you, Atreyi. Moving on to the next question, we have the question from Meena ma'am to Atreyi. Atreyi, are you collecting word level data only or trying to capture all the levels of language?
Okay. Yes, obviously, I am collecting lexical data as well as data on other levels. But to elaborate on that, I would have to need more data, which at this stage is not possible because the data in itself is hard to come by. But there are certain inversions that are happening to the language in the sense that if they say cargoj, they are inverting it into lagoj. Okay. So they're replacing the first initial sound with something else. So these are specific of criminal languages, so to speak. If you see over the years and if you've studied, you will see that such things are happening. Uh, but to give something in more detail is not possible at this stage because the work is ongoing and I haven't reached that level to say elaborate on more.
Thank you, Atreyi. Next question we have from Kuntala Ghosh Dostidar. Again to Atreyi. Atreyi, are you focusing on the sentence structures? Do the sentences they use differ syntactically from the Bangla sentence structure?
It's the same thing. I think I mentioned it initially about embedded and matrix language. So syntactically, I have to get more information. And unlike what happens in other field work, I do not have a questionnaire specific questionnaire with a specific sense of questions, direct questions saying that this is this how you form a sentence, or could you give me an example how you do it? Because I have to approach it with kid gloves because they're already not uh, interested in giving me information. So I have to somehow fool them into giving me information in that way, in the sense that I don't want them to become extremely aware of the amount of information that they're giving. So I can't ask them such questions, like, is this syntactically, this is how, I mean, in their way, I can't ask it. I have to get to that level. I have to get more information to actually comment on that.
Thank you, Atreyi. Moving on to the next question we have from Shastri Boishampayan Mahapatra. How difficult is it to gain the trust of an informant? There might be many cases where they might not see any gain for themselves in providing data to someone. How do you deal with that? I would like to ask the question to Shantanu.
As I mentioned earlier as well, like trust issue is a big thing. Like you have to do it. I mean, it comes with your skill set. Somehow, like getting along with, you have to make friends with the people. Um, that's why I think time is very important, and definitely you have to make them understand. It's like a gain, of course. It's a kind of materialistic gain for us. We'll be gaining a degree, but we have to make them understand also. It is going to be a gain for their community as well. Like if we do work in on their language, eventually people will get to know about their language. So that will in a way help them out and their language, and might help their language to come out of endangerment sometimes. So we have to make them understand about this, definitely.
Thank you, Shantanu. Rajeshwari, would you like to add something to it?
I think I answered part of the question earlier in the talk, and I would just say that before actually beginning with the idea of gaining the trust, it's important to spend a certain amount of time with the community where you are not with your own set of work there. Just giving a visit without any work, not taking a questionnaire or taking some recording or camera or anything. Just go as a visit, like you would go as a researcher or as a traveler. I would say just go and since you have a purpose, you have an agenda, you go there and try to mix with the community and talk to them, and that will and build responses, build contacts that will help you in your next visits, which you come when you come with your own work, your set of targets. So I think that time and the building of a contact is very important before you actually begin to gain trust of informant or get acceptance into the community.
Thank you, Rajeshwari. I would like to ask the same question to Atreyi.
So with me, since it's not possible for me to approach them in their normal habitat, so to speak, I do with small gestures. Maybe I'll sit with them. So one day, one of them was looking for some water. So I gave them water from my bottle. And they asked me why is it so cool. Then I said that it is kept in an earthen pot. That's why it's so cool. So I talk to them. I don't have that stigma that they are labeled by law or certain legal terms, and which they might have been forced to, like through certain legal terms, they have been uh, stigmatized as criminals. I approach them like any other human being because they already have that stigma that they face with other people. So I will be nice. I will try to be nice to them and offer them water. Uh, they might be asking what I have in my bag, and it's usually books. I'll probably show it to them. Or for that matter, if I'm going after a long time, they don't expect me to remember the names, and it is very rewarding that, or names, or for that matter, their faces. I am not allowed to take photographs. And since it's like unethical in the sense they have refused, don't take my photograph in the first place. So they don't expect me to remember their names. I do remember their names. I remember their faces. And that in itself is they can understand. And I think one of them actually told me that I usually would not talk to other people, but you seem to be a nice person. Coming from a criminal, I think I will take that as a compliment because they already are good judges of character. I think that is like a good stamp for my character. I don't know. It was nice that they they remembered.
I think little gestures might
My
help.
my
Yes. I know. I mean, one day I cooked something at my home. I got that food for them, and they were very happy. And it's not that, like, to get my work done, I'm bribing them. It would automatically come, and I think we should do. And they are good people. They are helping you out in your work. So this sort of gestures are to be, are to be served to them, definitely.
Yeah, you actually ask about their family. With my case, I actually ask about their family members, how they're doing, what they're doing, if they were in trouble, so how they have resolved it and everything. So they like that, we are asking them.
Hmm.
I would just like to add Arundhati to this thing. I remember they came here near Newtown for during the winters to participate in a cultural program organized by the government of India. And we were a group of 15 to 16 people, and out of them, I had actually worked with 3 to 4 people in the field. So I invited them to my house. I went, made all the efforts to make it possible and see that they actually able to come to my house because they have lots of restrictions of movement. If coming from government challenge, they are settled somewhere for a certain purpose and then they don't have that free movement to roam around here and there. There are other many issues that might come up. So I just tried all my way to make them possible to for them to come to my house. And there were around 15 to 16 people, and we came, had lunch in our place, and we discussed and talked and sang songs and participated. I didn't feel that I was in my home. I just felt that I went to my field. Similarly, I remember a person saying that your place is not seeming different. We feel similar here. That was one thing that I remembered. I remember that. So these things go a long way, I think, in building trust. Even if the work gets over, it's not that you will end all your contacts and you, okay, it's fine, I'm done. It's not that. So these kind of things go a long way.
Thank you, Rajeshwari. Moving on to the next comment, it is from Shucharita Chakraborty. The speakers are intelligent people who have done their field work in an intelligent fashion. Congratulations. Next comment from Modhura Sen. It is wonderful to listen to the experience of the speakers. It is different for all the three, and the variety makes it all the more interesting. Congratulations, Rajeshwari Di, Sayantani, and Atreyi. Next comment is from Abhijit sir. Thanks to all participants for their brilliant discussion. Next comment is from Ria Guho. Thank you, Atreyi Di, Rajeshwari Di, and Sayantani Di for sharing your colorful experiences with us. And now the last comment is from Nusrat Ahmed. Thank you for this interesting and informative session. What if the speakers of an endangered language do not wish to protect or preserve their own languages? How would you convince them? Rajeshwari Di.
Okay, this is a very good question and an important question. We get to see these kind of instances when we go to field that in order to shift to the major language or the dominant language or the capital language to get certain facilities, they themselves they have this a factor of attitude comes in, and they themselves are not very keen to use their language, and even their attitudes also differ. So I think for us as linguists or as workers for language, it's our duty to make them understand the importance of their own language. I'm sure they know, but many times they deny. But some kind of convincing, some kind of information, some kind of discussion or conversation, I think would help in making them transparent or natural with their own understanding of their language, and the fact that how important it is, each and every language in that sense, to keep it in use it in active manner, and let us not make it dormant passive language, and keep it in use, keep it in function, and preserve it in that way. So I think as linguists, as researcher, it's our work to help to do that, the community members and the language activists and all.
Thank you, Rajeshwari. Sayantani.
Yes, what I can say, like, we can just only try to convince them in our fullest capacity, but it's not really in our hand if they're really convinced or not, because the aspiration to use some other dominant languages are somehow controlled by some other external forces. Like if they don't have any institutional support for their language, right? If they don't have any other way to use their language in a very functional domains, like what's the it's really gets hard for them even to keep their language in use. So what happens is that as a linguist you can definitely um, you know uh, try to convince them, you can extend your help to them, but at the same time it's really not in our hand to control their wish and aspiration to use their language. But definitely in my case I have also experienced there have been plenty people who are willing to use the language but they cannot, right? So mere willingness might not serve the purpose, so they need to get that scope. So and that scope cannot be made or cannot be created by the linguist only. So the language policies are responsible, the different institutional supports are needed. So all the things should work together, to make them willing to use their language. So that is what I do believe.
Thank you, Shantani. The last comment we have from Meena ma'am. Thank you, all the participants and the organizers. And with this comment, I would like to request Anindita to carry on from here. Anindita.
Thank you.
Arindita, if I can add
Yes,
just a
yes,
small
yes,
short
yes.
story to you all. It's about the misconceptions we have about our subject and the less of awareness that we have. I remember a chat with a friend of mine, Devadrita. She's married, and সবে সবে তখন আমরা এমএ তে ভর্তি হয়েছি, কিছুদিন ক্লাস হয়েছে তখন। এবার একদিন ক্লাসে এসে গল্প করছে যে জানিস আমার বর আমাকে এরকম বলছে যে কি একটা সাবজেক্ট নিয়ে ভর্তি হলে এটা শুনে তো বোঝারও উপায় নেই, কি বিষয় পড়বে, তোমার বন্ধুদেরকে দেখো পলিটিক্যাল সায়েন্স নিয়ে ভর্তি হচ্ছে, ইন্টারন্যাশনাল রিলেশনস নিয়ে পড়ছে, বা কোনো ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ নিয়ে পড়ছে, এটা পড়ে নামটা শুনেও বোঝার উপায় নেই যে কি বিষয় তুমি পড়বে। তো she after some time she just responded, শুনলো, শোনার পরে বললো যে তুমি যে এতগুলো কথা বললে তার পেছনে কি কি অর্গান স্পিচ ব্যবহার করেছো তুমি জানো? Naturally he had no response to that. I felt it was such an appropriate way of making him give an idea of what we are about to study in linguistics, or what we are to do with this subject. I just remember and wanted to share with you. That's all.
Okay. Thank you for this. You see, this session will continue for eternity if we that this has helped a lot of people. We have got to know a lot of things, and most importantly, now we have to log out. But before we do that, we need to extend our thanks to a lot of people. A lot of people are working behind this event. Firstly, thank you, speakers, for taking out some time from your busy schedules and giving them to us. Thank you a lot for this. Secondly, our professors, Aditi ma'am and Meena ma'am, they have been working with this from a long time. Thank you so much for this. And the rest of the professors also, Selvin sir, Abhijit sir, Sunandan sir, thank you so much. You have guided us all through. Next important people are the ones behind the entire working of this seminar, which is the technical team. Awake, Ashmita Di and Sneha Di, thank you for the continuous support. And now comes the most important part, the audience. There has been an overwhelming response from the audience both yesterday and today, and that is what makes it. Am I audible?
Yeah, sure. Go on. You are audible.
Okay, so I think audience's responses is what is making this event so successful. So thank you, audience. Thank you, speakers. Thank you, organizers. Thank you, research scholars. There have been a lot of people. You all are a part of it as well. So we would be continuing with this, rather a third session of this interactive web series tomorrow. Tomorrow's time is 3 p.m. IST. I would request all of you to join us once again. We'd be starting with a fresh topic with a fresh batch of speakers. So thank you all. Good day.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, bye, bye.
Bye.